Hello, it's a lovely good evening. Welcome to Camnet Television Main News. My name is Jeffrey Siambo to present. Our top stories in the news tonight: a LUSAKA couple found dead in suspicious circumstances. Police have arrested and charged former President Edgar Lungu's political advisor, KAIZE ZULU. Central Bank maintains the policy rate at 9% for 4 consecutive quarters. In international news, 2 die from lightning strikes at displaced persons camp in the DRC. In sports news, Zambia under-17 women's team ready to defend their title.
In our quest to save nations and develop Africa, ZAMBIA is investing in the agriculture sector so as to produce supply for both local and international markets, housing over 12,000 pullets that are nurtured and fed with our locally made stock feed that comes from our own locally grown maize and soya beans, all processed from our recently installed milling and mixing plant. Our over 95,000 layers have an output capacity of over 1,500 trays of fresh eggs per day that are carefully selected and packaged for all the leading stores and supermarkets nationwide. Our greenhouses are fitted with the latest irrigation system, and the seedlings are nurtured to ensure only healthy plants reach the fields. With our deliberate planting schedule, we are better placed to supply constantly without interruption, thus reliable. ZAMBIA Farms is also changing lives of its dedicated workforce drawn from the local community and beyond. So the next time you think fresh and green, think ZAMBIA Farms.
Good news, the rains have started. You need to plan your future. Generational wealth is the way to go. House-grafted avocado plants fruiting within 2 to 3 years for sale at only 90 kwacha each, and ordinary avocados at only 45 kwacha each. Contact us on 0979 753010 or 0962 965 883. We are open from 8 hours to 17 hours, Monday to Friday, at Healing Word Ministries International in Ibex Hill, opposite Hilltop Hospital.
Hello once again, another news in detail. 2 bodies of a LUSAKA couple have been discovered in a decomposed state in what is suspected as murder. The bodies have been reported to be that of a 60-year-old Bernard Chomba and his 56-year-old wife, identified as Walia Chileshe, who were reported missing on Sunday, 20th November 2022. The decomposed state of the bodies have forced family members to bury the 2 and have called for police to investigate and arrest whoever is behind their killings. Meanwhile, Minister of Community Development Doreen Mwamba, who happens to be the younger sister to the late Mrs. Chomba, describes her death as a great loss to the family. More in this report.
A nice, quiet neighborhood with a nice couple that many people called friends. Residents of Lusaka's Kasupe area say they never expected something as bad as Walia Chileshe, 56, and her husband, 60-year-old Bernard Chomba's death. Their bodies were discovered about 30 meters near their home. The deceased, who lived at a farmhouse before their death, are alleged to have been murdered. The incident is said to have occurred on Sunday. It is reported that 3 days after the couple went missing, a close relation to the victim was informed of the situation, but all efforts to contact the couple were in vain as their phones went unanswered. This prompted them to report the matter to the police. A friend to Mrs. Chomba recalls the time she saw her.
No, you can communicate with the family, that's when you can come in. And then we called the sister. The sister said, no, we are already in police. That's when I called my friend, she was here. He said that, no, there is a bad news here. Where are you? That I'm coming, I'm on my way. That no, your friend, there is no more your friend.
While other neighbors have appealed to their civic leader to build a police station in the area, raising concerns on issues of safety.
It used to be a very peaceful community here. Kasupe has been a quiet place, a very safest place in fact so far. But suddenly the incident which has occurred in our neighbor here is just unfortunate. It's sad, it's unbelievable.
To the government to build as a police post. Otherwise there is no security at the moment because people are just being, killed like this in cold blood, which is not fair.
Shock and sadness from friends and family as investigations continue in the case. An intensive forensic crime scene investigation by forensic officers has taken place throughout this morning, Wednesday, the 23rd of November 2022, to establish the circumstances behind the death. The area councillor also added his voice.
Crime situation in the area is now getting out of hand because of not having enough police posts in the area. As the area now is growing in terms of population. Predominantly, initially the area was a farming area. But what has happened is most of the farm states have been sold.
Meanwhile, Minister of Community Development Doreen Mwamba, who happens to be the young sister to the late Mrs. Chomba, described the couple's death as a great loss to the family.
The police are on it, and the forensic department has been here. Right now we are waiting for the postmortem to be carried out here on site. The two bodies are badly decomposed, so after the postmortem, we'll bury them immediately.
The two bodies were found in a decomposed state, a situation that has forced family members to hold the burial this afternoon, Wednesday. According to a statement issued by the police, investigations have confirmed that a Toyota Spatial believed to belong to the deceased is missing. Associated household goods were found scattered in different rooms. The neighborhood is still shaken as they await details from investigators. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
A 28-year-old man of Chongwe district, identified as Joshua Bwalia, has allegedly killed his own mother and dismembered her body before burying it. Deputy Police Spokesperson Danny Mwale has identified the deceased as Ruth Nyamvula. Mr. Mwale says police in Chongwe received information from the head teacher of Mpango Secondary School, who earlier received a report from a pupil at the same school that they heard the deceased shouting for help in her house, which is located near the boarding houses, around 23 hours on Tuesday. Mr. Mwale says the pupils failed to go to the house as the noise lasted for a short time. He says the head teacher and the pupils, in the company of other community members, Wednesday morning went to the deceased's house and did not find her at home, but saw the suspect coming from the nearby bush with blood stains all over his body. The police deputy spokesperson says the suspect, when asked on the whereabouts of his mother, lied that she had gone for business errands, but when they opened the house, they discovered a pool of blood on the floor, and that was when the head teacher called the police. Police officers who rushed to the scene managed to apprehend the suspect, who later led them to the nearby bush about 900 meters away from the deceased's house, where he demonstrated how he drugged the deceased after killing her in her house. Police in Lusaka have formally charged and arrested former President Edgar Lungu's political advisor, KAIZE ZULU, and one other for 4 counts of threatening violence contrary to the laws of Zambia. Mr. ZULU has been charged with Rafik Kakonde for an incident which occurred on September 7, 2019 in Kafue district, where the duo threatened to shoot and cause physical injuries on persons identified as Beradin Shindo, Sengewayo Jere, Sao Masikote and Manson Mwemba. Police Deputy Spokesperson Danny Mwale says the duo have also been charged and arrested for the subject offense of assault, in which 2 people identified as Bernardine Shindu and Sengewayo Jerry were assaulted by the suspects on 7 September 2019 in Kafue district. Mr. Mwale says the 2 suspects are detained in police custody awaiting court appearance. The state has failed to produce witnesses in the case in which former President Edgar Lungu's press aide Amos Chanda is charged with 2 counts of theft and destroying of evidence. When the matter came up this morning, State Prosecutor Louis Kandele informed the court that he did not secure any witnesses, hence requesting for an adjournment in order to prepare. This was in a matter Mr. Chanda was the 3rd accused person jointly charged with Intelligent Mobility Solutions Board Chairman Walid El Nahaz and former Road Transport and Safety Agency Chief Executive Officer Zindaba Soko. More in this report.
The state Wednesday morning failed to produce witnesses in a case in which former presidential spokesperson Amos Chanda is facing criminal charges of theft and destroying evidence. Mr. Chanda was making his 2nd appearance before Lusaka Magistrate Irene Wishimanga. He had appeared before court in relation to this matter in October this year after he spent 6 days in custody and bail was granted to him. However, this morning when he made his 2nd court appearance, Mr. Chanda, who seemed ready for his commencement of trial, was informed to appear next year on the 30th of January 2023 on ground that the state was not ready to proceed as they did not secure any witness to testify this morning. The state has slapped him with 2 counts of theft and destroying evidence charges, which he has pleaded not guilty to. The Drug Enforcement Commission recently arrested the accused for allegedly stealing and burning a court record of the Road Transport and Safety Agency speed camera corruption case. This was in a matter in which Mr. Chanda was a 3rd accused person jointly charged with Intelligent Mobility Solution Board Chairman Walid El Nahas and former Road Transport and Safety Agency Chief Executive Officer Zindaba Soko. In the record of proceedings, the Director of Public Prosecution had entered the nolle prosequi on the 12th of May 2020, and thereafter Mr. Chanda is alleged to have burnt the court record, which was the property of the state. Miriam Kaimba, reporting for Camnet TV News.
A Lusaka businessman, Valden Findlay, has made his first court appearance before the Lusaka Magistrates Court for an offense of giving false information to a public officer. However, his case failed to take off as his charge sheet nor the state were present before court. The Immigration Department in October arrested and detained Findlay for giving false information to a public officer. He has been charged with 3 counts under the Immigration Act and Passport Act. More in this report.
Recently arrested by the Drug Enforcement Commission, former President Edgar Lungu's associate Valden Findlay made his first court appearance Wednesday morning before the Lusaka's Magistrate Court for an offense of giving false information to a public officer. Mr. Findlay, who has been jointly charged together with his wife, was however informed on when to appear before court. This was after his lawyer Charles Changano said his charge sheet and the state were not before court. The Immigration Department in October arrested and detained Mr. Findlay for giving false information to a public officer. He has been charged with 3 counts under the Immigration Act and Passport Act. The immigration picked up Mr. Findlay a few days after he had concluded another interrogation at the Anti-Corruption Commission, where he gave an ordinary statement over the accusation of his Chisamba farm. Shortly after picking him up, immigration officers moved Mr. Findlay to his house in State Lodge area where a search was conducted at his residence. After the search, Mr. Findlay was then taken to the Immigration Department headquarters where he was interrogated for almost 4 hours. Earlier in October this year, the Drug Enforcement Commission, through its Anti-Money Laundering Investigations Unit, jointly charged and arrested Mr. Findlay and his wife for money laundering involving 368 million kwacha. The commission also charged and arrested Mr. Findlay's wife for gratification paid to a former government official. In a statement, DEC Public Relations Officer Matthias Kamanga said Mr. Finda and his wife, in their capacity as directors in Twatotela Properties Limited, allegedly received 368 million kwacha through their law firm, suspected to be proceeds of crime. Miriam Kaimba reporting for Camnet TV News.
The Financial Intelligence Center, FIC, says it has intensified its monitoring mechanisms to curb money laundering and financial crimes. Speaking shortly after a stakeholders training in Lusaka Wednesday, FIC Director Compliance and Prevention Defat Tembo says his organization is expanding its web to include all players in different institutions such as traveling agents and real estate developers to help curb financial crimes. Mr. Tembo says his institution has observed that the real estate sector has been highly used for hiding laundered money and that engaging the players in the sector will intensify the fight against the vice. He adds that the media is also an important partner that has the capacity to help fight financial crimes.
They are referred to as accountable institutions. They are not reporting entities, but we have designated as accountable institutions because of maybe observed risks around these institutions. So among those that have been introduced as accountable institutions, that the FIC will have jurisdiction in terms of supervision, is the property developers. And I think you agree with me that this is one area where money launderers or those who have got intention would want to invest ill-gotten monies into property. And so we've just introduced certain measures that property developers have to put in place in terms of identifying these individuals, where they're coming from, the sources of funds, and probably do a bit of some due diligence about who are these buyers of these properties and the like. And probably also submitting what we call current transaction report, where you are seeing maybe cash coming to your institution or as a property developer, an amount equal to or above 10,000 USD. This is cash. We're not talking about electronic transaction, but cash coming to you. At that point, you as a property developer, you are supposed to submit a CTR or current transaction report to the center. Another sector that has been introduced are what we are calling travel agents. And people are wondering, why travel agents?
A 31-year-old mother of Lusaka's Kanyama compound says she is struggling to take care of her 5-year-old daughter with a disability after her husband abandoned her over 4 years ago. Speaking to Camnet News, the said mother, Gertrude Chima, explains that her husband left her a few months after she gave birth to her daughter with hydrocephalus, a condition which causes ventricles in the brain to fill with liquid and also leads to muscle dysfunction as well as fitting. The distraught mother is now appealing for well-wishers to help her with capital to start a stable business, stating that she is currently selling mango fruits for a living, despite her daughter requiring various types of medication every day. More in this report.
With the current high price of commodities and harsh economy, parenting is hard when you're struggling to eat 3 meals a day, and even becomes more challenging when caring for a child with disabilities, as they have specific needs. This is the situation of 31-year-old Gertrude Chima from Kanyama compound in Lusaka, a mother of a 5-year-old girl, Jennifer Musimuko, with a medical condition known as hydrocephalus, which causes her head to swell and all the muscles in her body to lose their function. Ms. Chima explains that her husband abandoned her a few months after the birth of the child, leaving her to struggle with food and all the medical expenses.
So kumchinja chabe madaipa na kumnyamula wampapa so chabe ukale mamgonika.
The distraught mother explains that her child requires daily medication to also keep her feet under control.
Mango ikasira basi magulisa maveji so chabe.
Choma kwa nini sakudia na mwana?
Niko waya waira ngati bavuta niko ndo washa mapisi we so chabe wapeza kwa mbogulisa na nyumba yale ndi mnyumba.
In a phone interview, A medical doctor, Teddy Mulenga, explains that the condition is not curable and requires regular management.
Is a condition whereby the cerebrospinal fluid, the fluid that circulates in the brain and the spinal cord, collects in the head, in the center of the brain, thereby putting the brain under pressure because the fluid is not going anywhere. So it puts the brain under pressure. And once the brain is under pressure, it does not function properly. So you would find that the child would have difficulty feeding, difficulty breathing, difficulty moving. All the functions that the brain controls will suffer.
Stakeholders advocating for the rights of persons with disabilities have been calling for the strengthening of laws to punish parents that abandon such children, as this is slowly becoming the norm. For now, her hope is on those who will be willing to help her start a sustainable business which will be able to help her take care of her daughter with a disability, stating that she currently depends on selling mango fruit. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Pupils at Mwanza Day Secondary School in Lusangazi district of Eastern Province have appealed to government to quickly rehabilitate the school whose roof was blown off by heavy rains. The rains also destroyed the head teacher's office where goods worth thousands of kwacha have been destroyed. And Msanzala Member of Parliament Elias Daka, who visited the school to ascertain the damage, has assured the school administration of a quick response from his office. More in this report.
Pupils at Mwanza Day Secondary School have appealed to government to quickly rehabilitate a classroom block whose roof was blown off following heavy downpour the area experienced on Sunday afternoon.
My exams are supposed to be by next week. This week I managed to my exams. So office yaba head mama papers.
Msanzala Member of Parliament Elias Daka has visited the school to ascertain the extent of the damage and has assured the school administration of quick response from his office.
Okay, no, it's a sad story, as we've all seen, that our learners are now learning from under the tree. Others, they are in a blown-off roof without roof. And it's a sad story. But after inspecting it, the assurance is that we are going to work on this school and taking advantage that even before this blown off, we have allocated here a 1x3 classroom block. So we take advantage of the situation which is here. We are going to make sure that we rehabilitate the same school so that our learners, we don't have these challenges again.
Mwanza Day Secondary School teacher ZULU had this to say.
I'd like to report over a 1x3 classroom that was blown off yesterday by the heavy rains. The rains left a lot of damage such that the office, everything that was there was completely damaged due to heavy rains and the winds. Apart from that, our girls' dormitory was also affected. It was blown off by the heavy rains. Because of that, we have nowhere to operate from. Exams are coming tomorrow. We expect the exam to be here by tomorrow, 14 hours, and we have nowhere to pack the exams, where to store the exams. It's a big challenge now as at Mwanza.
The Msanzala lawmaker has also visited Chikuse Primary and Mwanza Day Secondary schools, which have similar challenges as a result of heavy rains. Meanwhile, the Member of Parliament inspected some construction works of 1x3 classroom block at Kalumbi Primary School.
This is our project for 2022 CDF project. This is the 1x3 classroom block. As you are aware, here we had the challenge of classroom space due to this free education. Our people are very congested, so we thought of putting a 1x3 classroom block here. So we have come to inspect and to see the project, the progress. It is progressing well, and we hope it will be actualized soon.
Very much grateful as a school. We had a challenge when children reached grade 5. They were coming in the afternoon, which made 3/4 of the pupils to drop out. And this time around, we are very much hopeful to say it will come 2024. to have pupils coming in the morning from grade 5 up to 6, which will boost even our enrollment in the upper sector.
The rains have also destroyed several houses, leaving families on cold. Sambo David, Petauke, Eastern Province.
This is Camnet Television News. We'll take our first break. We'll be back with more news after this break.
Your skin is the biggest muscle in your body. That's why we make sure that Oracle is #1 when it comes to taking care of your precious skin. Oracle Pure Petroleum Jelly and Glycerin soothes, moisturizes and keeps your skin perfect. Oracle Pure Petroleum products for that perfect skin.
From time immemorial, we have had different types of lighting options, from those that can burn down our investments in minutes to those that dig holes in our pockets due to constant replacement and huge consumption of our ZESCO units. Savenda Electric introduces the new and advanced electric bulb with cutting-edge technology of LED that has low power consumption, gives out bright white light, and lasts up to 25,000 hours. Savenda Electric manufactures all types of LED light, like plastic LED fluorescent tubes, down lights, ceiling lights, outdoor fittings, and solar street lights made to customer specifications. Let's live on the bright side of life by choosing the wide range of Savenda electric lighting solutions that are available in all leading stores and supermarkets countrywide. For orders, call 0962 642 490 or email jnbunda@savenda.com or pchabula@savenda.com.
Christian Community Church Fundraising Dinner and Church Service. Hosts Pastor Field and Rita Ngalande. Guest speakers Pastors Victoria and Moses Chilu. Date 3rd and 4th December 2022. Venue Sally Riverside Resort in Mansa. Time dinner 19 hours to 22 hours. Church service 0930 to 12 hours. Contact us on 0978 04 2508. Take note, both events will take place at the same place.
Surround me with your grace. You surround me with your power.
Good news, good news. The rains have started. You need to plan your future. Generation wealth is the way to go. Has grafted avocado plants fruiting within 2 to 3 years for sale at only 90 kwacha each, and ordinary avocados at only 45 kwacha each. Contact us on 0979 753010 or 0962 965 883. We are open from 8 hours to 17 hours Monday to Friday at Healing Word Ministries International in Ibex Hill opposite Hilltop Hospital.
Welcome back. We'll continue with our news. The central bank has, for the 4th consecutive quarter, maintained its interest rate at 9%. Bank of Zambia Governor Dr. Denny Kalialia says the committee is arriving at the decision took into account the sluggish growth and some vulnerabilities in the financial sector. Zambia's last rate hike was in its November 2021 session, where the committee hiked its policy rate by 50 basis points. The governor, however, says the Bank of Zambia quarterly survey of business opinion and expectations point to a sluggish performance in economic activity in the third quarter. He says most firms reported a decline in output, domestic sales, new orders, capacity utilization, and level of investment on account of high borrowing costs. More in this report.
We also see that the economy is growing, but it's not growing at a rate that could bring about sustainable growth. As a matter of fact, tomorrow there is a discussion here in Lusaka by Oxford University and the London School of Economics on the growth prospects for Zambia, to zero in what are the issues that we need to address in order to get growth going. We also see that in the financial sector there are some vulnerabilities which, if not addressed or if we compounded them, they could create other challenges for the economy. So when we weighed these factors, we found that it was prudent for us to maintain the policy rate at 9%. Turning to the external sector, we see a development which hasn't been there since 2018, where now our current account balance is in deficit. Look at the solid line in the graph there. You can see that this has been coming down, but we are expecting that it wouldn't cross that zero line.
Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development Permanent Secretary in charge of Technical Services, Nicholas Piri, has directed local authorities to begin publishing names of successful cooperatives and education bursary beneficiaries going forward. The Permanent Secretary says doing so will allow for transparency in the implementation of the Constituency Development Fund (CDF). Mr. Piri has further directed local authorities to educate unsuccessful applicants on why they have been rejected, stating that this will help them going forward. He was speaking during a stakeholders engagement meeting on the successes and challenges of the implementation of the 25.7 million kwacha 2022 CDF. And speaking at the same event, Alliance for Community Action Senior Programs Manager Kalu Mubita says the research done by the organization on the implementation of CDF has shown that CDF sensitization has mainly been focused on urban areas, leaving those in rural areas with little or no information. More in this report.
The year 2022 is almost coming to an end, and many stakeholders have been left with questions on what the 25.7 million kwacha Constituency Development Fund (CDF) has achieved this year. Expectations were high after it was increased from the previous 1.6 million kwacha, leaving many with high hopes for development. The Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development says one of the major drawbacks to this fund in 2022 has been poor communication, urging local authorities to ensure that this is improved going forward. Gracing a meeting which was held with various stakeholders, Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development Permanent Secretary in charge of Technical Services Nicholas Piri says local authorities should be able to publish names of successful cooperatives as well as successful education bursary beneficiaries.
Please report back to the ministry, write to us and inform us that local authority AZ have not published the names and they are refusing to make this public information public. And we shall do with that, because we have said on times without number that we need to publish, communicate your communities who has succeeded and who has not succeeded in this quest. And those that have not succeeded, outline to them why they have not succeeded.
Other stakeholders, who include the non-governmental gender organizations coordinating council NGOCC, the Alliance for Accountability Advocates Zambia AAAZ, the Alliance for Community Action ACA, and the Alliance for Community Action ACA, have also observed challenges with the 2022 CDF, which need to be worked on in the future.
The failure by the Council to disseminate information pertaining to CDF in the remote parts of the country We did some work in LUNGU'S, Southern Province. There, it was observed that the local authority had challenges in disseminating information that far. Then some citizens have been unwilling to apply for CDF, which they perceive to be only accessible to citizens who are politically aligned. I think this is also in reference to the area of observation. Then there's limited information on how to identify corruption in CDF processes.
So the current Public Procurement Act of 2020 is vigorous and favorable to locally based suppliers, especially the youths, who are target audiences in provision of services and goods to local authorities and CDF projects.
We also ask that the CDF guidelines on paper and in a manner that will enable us to implement the guidelines should specify equal representation of women on CDF committees to ensure the full representation of the interests of women and girls.
The ministry adds that it is working on decentralizing project approvals from the ministry, as this has been one of the major complaints. Zipporah Mshala, Camnet News, Lusaka.
Operation Young Vote Executive Director Ges Nyirenda says the poor communication by the United Party for National Development (UPND) on whether the correct procedure was followed in awarding a named private auditing firm to audit the Ministry of Defense could leave to divide the country. Speaking to Camnet News, Mr. Nyirenda explains that while the Constitution allows for the engaging of private firms to undertake such activities, there is need to settle the bone of contention, which is whether the right procedure was followed. Patriotic Front members of Parliament Friday, 18th November 2022, walked out of Parliament after they felt they were being brushed off and not being given clear answers on the matter by Republican Vice President Mutale Nalumango.
But I think the question that begs an answer is, was the right procedure followed? Now, if the right procedure was followed, I think government should be able to just come out in the open and say that the procedures were followed. But if they were not followed, I think it would be important that the procedures should be followed. They must begin from the start until where we are to follow the procedures, because I think at the end of the day, these are issues that really bring about disunity in the country. Even when an issue is simple and it is within the law. So if the procedures were not followed, government must ensure that yes, now they begin to follow the procedures, so that at the end of the day, when that particular assignment is undertaken, government will be on firm ground to say the procedures were followed. So I think what is important is just information. Let us share information, because information is power, and we cannot live without information.
Northwestern Province Permanent Secretary Gladson Katambi has cautioned farmers against selling off inputs collected under the Farmer Input Support Program FISP for 2022-2023 farming season. Colonel Katambi further declared the province ready with a collection of inputs to all the districts in the province. The Permanent Secretary was speaking during the flagging off of the collection and redeeming of inputs for the farming season in Solwezi Wednesday. And Export Trading Group ETG Solwezi Depot Manager James Banda confirmed that Solwezi District has received 100% inputs for this farming season. More in the following report by Krivet Chituta of NAIS.
The distribution of inputs under the Farmer Input Support Program FISP for 2022-2023 farming season is taking shape in Northwestern Province. Northwestern Province Permanent Secretary Gladson Katambi has flagged off the correction and redeeming of inputs for this farming season in Solwezi. The Permanent Secretary has declared the province ready with the corrections of inputs by farmers in all the districts in the province.
I want to thank you, all of you, my parents, my sisters, my relatives, my cousins, for being so patient with your government. Your president, when he came here, you also regretted the fact that these inputs are not yet in place. But I'm here to stand on his behalf, to report to everybody that the situation has changed. We are now full-fledged and we are ready to actually take off from here to go and farm.
The permanent secretary also cautioned farmers against selling off inputs corrected under FISIP.
Please remember that it's costing millions and millions of dollars just to empower you. Please guard against this. If you see such people in your community, please come and report. We can come and get that bag from you and also arrest you because it's not intended for resale.
And Solwezi District Farmers Association chairperson Marian Kalala, who spoke on behalf of other farmers in the district, thanked the government for responding to farmers.
We are grateful. It's true we are getting impatient because the rains had already started, but we trusted the government and we're very grateful with the encouraging words which our Republican president spoke at the rally. So we're looking forward and we knew that it is going to pass. And we can see now we have all the inputs around.
Export Trading Group, ETG, who are the suppliers of the inputs in Northwestern Province, are equal to the task.
We have 100% stock for the compound and only remaining will be about 100 metric tons. Of course, after floating in these remaining trucks, we have everything for Solwezi. The rest we are putting in the other shed, which will go to other districts.
The Northwestern Province has 67,973 beneficiaries. That translates to a tonnage of 10,195 metric tons, each of D compound as well as urea. As we speak, they have been able to distribute 50% of the inputs that we expect in the province. 37,000 farmers, which is slightly more than half the total farmers that we have been able to deposit their 400 kwacha farmer contribution.
The trucks carrying inputs have continued to deliver in other districts with challenges of storage facilities. Krivach Tuta, reporting in Solwezi, Northwestern Province.
Thank you for still staying with us. This is Camnet Television News. We'll take our second and final break. We'll be back with more news after the break.
You know I can take her a break.
Yes, my dear.
I was thinking of getting you a Bugatti on your birthday.
Really?
I'm quiet. My name is Yana.
Don't worry, my dear. That's why there is insurance.
Insurance?
You heard me.
Not just any kind of insurance, but Savenda General Insurance, a company that offers superior customer service, highly professional and dedicated staff. We are not just any insurance company, but an insurance company that actually pays our claims. We cover, among others, fire, marine, aviation, engineering, agriculture, motor vehicle, and miscellaneous insurance. So, live life to the full, knowing that Savenda General Insurance has got you covered. Savenda General Insurance. Insurance excellence.
Good news, good news. The rains have started. You need to plan your future. Generation wealth is the way to go. Has grafted avocado plants fruiting within 2 to 3 years for sale at only 90 kwacha each. And ordinary avocados at only 45 kwacha each. Contact us on 0979 753010 or 0962 965 883. We are open from 8 hours to 17 hours Monday to Friday at Healing Word Ministries International in Ibex Hill opposite Hilltop Hospital.
Welcome back. And now in international news, 2 people have died from lightning strikes on Monday in a displaced persons camp in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. More than 260,000 people have been forced to flee their homes due to recent fighting between government forces and M23 rebels, according to assessments by the United Nations. One of the victims was a pregnant woman who had stepped out from her tent when she was struck. Another was a young child. In other international stories, thousands of South African government workers took part in nationwide demonstrations on Tuesday, November 22, 2022, to demand a 10% increase in their salaries. Here's a roundup of international news for more.
2 people have died from lightning strikes in a displaced persons camp in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC. One of them was a pregnant woman who had stepped out from her tent when she was struck. Another was a young child, according to reports. The camp, Kanyaruchinya, just north of Goma City, is only 20 kilometers from the front lines of the fighting between government forces and M23 rebels. It was yesterday around 2 p.m. when it was raining. My wife was leaving the house. She was moving towards the neighbor. It was after that the lightning struck her and then she died. The bodies of the victims have been brought to the provincial morgue in Goma to await funeral. Grieving families of the victims have asked for help from the government. May the government help us with assistance, because we are suffering a lot. The displaced are suffering, we have no food, and the suffering is getting worse every day. More than 260,000 people have been forced to flee their homes due to recent fighting between the government forces and M23 rebels, according to assessments by the United Nations.
Camps right now, people are living in very flimsy shelters, perhaps with very little access to water, very little access to food, and that's what we're most concerned about. It's raining quite considerably at the moment, on and off in eastern DRC. So as you can imagine, with rain comes dampness and coldness, and people are struggling to keep warm and to keep dry and to keep safe.
Aid workers say an urgent international response is needed and have added that they are looking for $50 million to fund its work for the next 6 months.
Across South Africa's major cities, thousands of government workers demonstrated on Tuesday to demand a 10% increase in their salaries. They protested despite the government's no work, no pay principle for the striking public employees. In Pretoria, workers marched to the offices of the National Treasury to submit their demands.
We are here to register our complaints against the government, the sixth administration that does not take workers serious. Government workers deserve more than a 3%. We reject the gratuity that does not add value in our pensions. That pension is the only thing that is reserved for our children.
We are here because we don't want this 3%. We cannot afford petrol, we cannot afford electricity. Everything is going up, but our increment does not seem to be going up.
The government is resolved to unilaterally implement the 3% pay hike, which hasn't satisfied the unions. The volatile situation in the public sector is one of the nation's many challenges.
The government that listens only to the bourgeoisie and condemns workers does not deserve to be re-elected into office. And therefore, how they respond to this public sector demands and workers' rights and the entire demands of the working class is the basis upon which they can lead us. But at the moment, they don't deserve to lead us.
Minimal disruptions to services at government institutions like hospitals were reported. Further demonstrations may follow if the government and unions don't reach an agreement.
The German government has indicated that it will quit its participation in a UN military mission in Mali by mid-2024. The German government pointed out at gross human rights violation in Mali, adding that the constant collaboration between the West African nation and the Russian Wagner security group as their main reason for their withdrawal. The Malian soldiers who were so well trained then went out and fought with the Russian forces. I don't know 100% if it was Wagner group forces every time or not, but they fought with the Russian forces, and there were also human rights violations, and that can't be what we are about. Not just training, no matter what happens afterward, but acting on principles, and that is why we have ended their training mission. The current mandate for German participation in the UN mission known as MINUSMA allows for deployment for up to 1,400 troops. Britain had announced last week that it will withdraw its troops from the UN mission in Mali, saying that the West African country's growing reliance on Russian mercenaries is undermining stability.
We now have some sports news. Zambia under-17 women striker Marcela Sekeseke says her team is making use of the short period they have been given to prepare for the 2022 COSAFA Women's Under-17 Championship. Marcela says her team is pushing to be among the top 11 that will play in Malawi for the Region 5 Games. She says her team is working at defending the title which they currently hold. The team is in camp preparing for Region 5 Games to be played in Lilongwe from 1st to 10th December 2022. The COSAFA champions will open their defense against Botswana on December 1 this year.
The preparations have been going well so far. We've been determined because we've only had a few times to be in camp, and we really made sure that we've made use of this short period that we have to work on our mistakes and most importantly perfect every wrong areas that we're going through. And we keep pushing. Everything is going good so far, and yeah, being a new end should of course be hard because we already find the old former experienced players in the squad, so we have to fight for numbers, positions, and it's quite tough, but yeah, we still push here and there. Yeah, so but we're still pushing, trying to be part of first 11 or even the squad that's going to Malawi. So individually, I'm really targeting being being notified at the Region 5 games that we're going for in Malawi, and also I'm also targeting for at least getting one of the prizes there. And as a squad, we're targeting to keep or defend our cup because we're the defending champions, and that's what we keep reminding each other every day. To defend the title at all means dying on the pitch. We die for it, because it would really be embarrassing if we went there and then we lost it again. So yeah, we keep pushing for that, and apart from that, we're also encouraging each other in camp. The morale is good, trying to keep everybody motivated and ready for the tournament.
That footballing note brings us to the end of our news tonight. But before we go, the headlines once again. A LUSAKA couple found dead in suspicious circumstances. Police have arrested and charged the former President Edgar Lungu's political advisor, KAIZE ZULU. Central Bank maintains the policy rate at 9% for 4 consecutive quarters. In international news, 2 die from lightning strikes at a displaced persons camp in the DRC. And in sports news, Zambia under-17 women's team ready to defend their title. Our Camnet verse for the day is coming from Deuteronomy 28, verse 1 to 2. Now, if you faithfully obey the Lord your God and are careful to follow all his commands I am giving you today, the Lord your God will put you far above all the nations of the earth. All these blessings will come and overtake you because you obey the Lord your God. Thank you once again for watching Camnet Television Main News. I'm Jeffrey Ziambo. Bye-bye.